We're at a critical point here in America. There are those who are determined to fundamentally change our way of life. Well, what do they want to change it to? And what can the righteous do? That's coming up next as Arkansas Live starts right now. I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are thinking, well, who are the righteous to determine what kind of country we live in? Who are the righteous to set themselves up as judge? The Bible tells us that when the foundations are changed, what will the righteous do? The Bible gives us our assignment and gives us our position of authority. Psalm 11:3, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Foundations is defined as moral and political and economic foundations. So this is not me, this is not self-righteousness, this is the Bible telling us what we are to do and why. Unless we want our foundations destroyed, unless we want our country destroyed. And just remember this, this is bigger than you and me. This is bigger than us, because America is not only our nation, but it's God's nation. The Founding Fathers saw to that. We are a Christian nation. No matter what President Obama said, we are a Christian nation, always have been and always will be until the catching away of the church. And we've had help in changing the foundations. And there are progressives, there are people in our country that want to change America. They hate America. They hate what America stands for. They're of the spirit of Antichrist. And the church is at the end of that spectrum of hatred. It's not just politics, it's the church. They want to shut the church up. Now, I ask you, we're here to give you an understanding of the difference between the Democratic platform, the Republican platform, because that's what you're going to vote for in the presidential election. You're going to be voting whether we live under a Republican platform or a Democrat platform. It's not so much about the person, the individual, even though it is, but it's not, because that individual stands on a platform. And I've shown you both platforms this week. Here's the Democratic platform, here's the Republican platform. And you're going to vote for a person that lives by one of these platform. And you heard Senator Rapert yesterday say that the majority of the time, a political candidate will vote with their party. So it make no bones about it. The Democratic Socialist Party platform is pro-death, it's for abortion, it's pro-homosexual agenda, it's anti-Israel. Those three things right there are going to affect America and have already affected. We've killed 63 million babies in the womb. Mother Teresa said, when a nation kills its unborn, it sears their soul, it destroys their soul. President Ronald Reagan said abortion is the conscience of a nation. We've lost our conscience because we've killed babies in the womb. The pro-homosexual agenda will destroy a society from within. And anti-Israel will destroy America, because the Bible says if you bless Israel, you get blessed. If you curse Israel, you get cursed. So those three things, abortion, homosexuality, and Israel. That's what determines the success or failure of any nation. And I'm not here to offend anybody. We have partners that support VTN that are members of the Democrat Socialist Party. We have partners that support VTN that are members of the Republican Party. I get mail from both. I get chewed out by those that don't like what we say, and I get complimented by those that do like what we say. But I'm not here to please either one. I'm here to tell you the truth. And what the Bible says is the truth. And my responsibility is to tell you. It's your responsibility as to what you do with it. So we're here to let you know that when you vote, you're going to be voting for a party platform. And I've shown you what both party platforms basically represent. Now, Psalm 11:3 says, what will the righteous do? Who are the righteous? They are the born-again Christians. I know there are people that hate Christians. They hate Christian legislators. They make fun of them. They write nasty articles about them. They don't like them because they don't want to adhere to the Bible. They don't want to live by the Bible. Well, that doesn't stop us from the responsibility as Christians from standing on the Word, believing what the Word says. Now, yesterday I read to you from Matthew 24, and I was explaining to you what's going on right now, and Jesus was telling His disciples. He was telling them about the sign of His coming, and He was telling them about the end of the world. These are two different issues. Matthew 24 does not talk about the rapture of the church. The rapture of the church is not anywhere in Matthew 24. This is talking about the second coming of Christ. And in Matthew 24:14, it says, the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. What we're experiencing now is the end of an age, not the end of the world. The end of the church age. And listen to what Jesus said to His disciples, because the disciples didn't know anything about the rapture of the church. The rapture of the church had not even been mentioned. The rapture of the church can be found in John 14, 1 Thessalonians 4 and 5, and the second coming can be found in Matthew 24. This is when Jesus comes back with His saints. If you're a saint, if you're a Christian, that's you, and sets up His millennial kingdom. But before all that happens, He says, take heed that no man deceive you. Many will come in my name, saying, I'm Christ, and deceive many. You'll hear of wars, rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass. One day I was outside in my backyard praying, and I was asking the Lord, Lord, why haven't we been able to stop this coronavirus? Why haven't we been able to stop all these people dying? Why haven't we been able to stop all of this trouble and whatever? And I said, because we've had more prayer, more intercession, more faith demonstrations, more, He said, go back and read the Scriptures again. I told you, Matthew 24:6. He said, all these things must come to pass. Must come to pass, yes. This is the prelude. This is, he goes on and says in verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. This is just the beginning. And the term, the beginning of sorrows, and this is where we left off last time. I was reading you about the birth pangs, the travail before a woman gives birth. This is the birth pang period. This is the prelude to the great tribulation that's coming, where the wrath and judgment of God will be poured out basically on disobedience, Israel, Gentile nations. This is the prelude. This is the labor pains. They come and they go. And let me just say this, and I know some of you won't like to hear this, but according to the Scriptures, not my opinion, not a prophetic proclamation, but according to the Scriptures, these things are going to continue. I know you don't want to hear that, but Jesus said these things, and He lists them. Wars, rumors of wars. Oh, we're hearing a rumor of war right now. It's called the Second Civil War. And I had this out here. Let me read to you the things that contributed to the First Civil War. Cultural values, economic interests, the power of the federal government to control the states, and most importantly, slavery in America. Those are the conditions in America in the 1800s that led to the Civil War. Now we're seeing the exact same situations surface again. There are those that are suggesting that we could have a second civil war. If we do, it would be totally destructive. We wouldn't need atomic bomb. We wouldn't need China or Iran or Russia to send a bomb. We would destroy ourselves, just like we almost did during the Civil War. These are all foundations. This is what Psalm 11:3 is all about. If the foundations be destroyed, what will the righteous do? Which suggests the righteous have something to do with this. You do, I do. We have something to do with these foundations. Economic, cultural, federal and state government, slavery, which is now racism. We have all the same conditions that exist in America. So some are suggesting that if we have a second civil war, that we will self-destruct. But I don't believe we'll have one. I believe that the righteous are going to rise up and do something. Let me finish this in Matthew 24:6. Wars, rumors of wars. Don't be troubled. That's easier said than done, isn't it? Don't be troubled. But all these things must come to pass. These are moeds. These are set appointed times. Now don't confuse this, like many have, with God is doing these things. No, He is not doing these things. God is not behind the coronavirus. God is not behind wars and rumors of war. God is not behind earthquakes. God is not doing any of this. Listen to me. To correct, to chasten, to instruct. That is not God's DNA. That is not how He guides and leads His people. He's not doing any of this to perfect, to correct, to chasten America. These things are of Satan. They're of the enemy. Sickness, disease. We say, well, if that's so, then why hadn't God done anything about it? Because God requires you to do something about it. He didn't say in Psalm 11:3, what will God do about it? What will the government do about it? He said, what will you do about it? What will the righteous do about it? And folks, the church has just lulled themselves to sleep. They've either gotten caught up into performance or events or spectators, or they're not the church anymore. They're just in la-la land. They're asleep. Or they've gotten lifted up in pride and gotten into materialism. Either way, the church is not fulfilling its assignment as mentioned in the Bible. The Bible says the church is to be salt and light. Church members have to wake up. Pastors have to wake up. Churches have to wake up. And Jesus said these things are going to continue to come to pass. They must come to pass. These are set times. These are moeds. These are appointed times. Jesus' first coming was a moed, a set time. His second coming is a moed, a set time. His trip to Jerusalem to be crucified was a set time. You remember when Jesus prayed to the Lord and said, in John 17, and said, I've done what you asked me to do. I've kept all of these. He said, I've only lost one, who was Judas. He called him the son of perdition. Listen to this. That the scriptures might be fulfilled. That was a set time. There are things that you can't change. And I know that's a slap in the face to faith people, but it's in the scriptures. It's in the book. There are certain things you can't change. What you have to do is discern what you can change and what you can't change. Because we've had more prayer about this corona thing. We've had prophets prophesy. We've had all kinds of stuff. Nothing stopped it because this must come to pass. Let me finish this, and then I want to show you a video. We've got several videos for the rest of this week I want you to watch. These things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. The end has to do with verse 14. The gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness. Then the end shall come. So we're in that sliver of time right now. He said all these are the beginning of sorrows. And he says, nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, pestilences, earthquakes. Now, I was reading you this the other day. The beginning of sorrows is like a woman getting ready to give birth. The analogy is, prior to the woman giving birth, she has contractions. Contractions before the extraction, before the baby's born. And the culmination of the sorrows or birth pangs, it comes at delivery, before delivery, when the pain is most intense. With the woman beginning to give birth, the analogy is from the beginning of sorrows until Jesus returns and establishes His kingdom is characterized by pain, sorrow, etc. In the Great Tribulation period, God is going to judge the nations. He's going to judge Israel, and there's going to be wrath poured out. However, the church has been caught up to meet Jesus in the air. The church has been raptured. We are in the heavens with Christ. In His Father's house are many mansions. I go to prepare a place, and I will come get you. That's the rapture. Now, before all that happens, we're in that period of the beginning of sorrows right now. We're seeing things we've never seen before. I've asked my producer, Melanie, to get some of these spots to show you. This helps broaden our perspective. And I want to show you a few of them. These were on Andrew Womack's program when he had the panel. The E.W. Jackson, he does a short piece on why vote, because that's our purpose, is to show you where we are, what our responsibility is, how we can change it. And we're facing an election. So let's go to this clip on the brink. It's 3 minutes and 50 seconds. And E.W. Jackson is a powerful minister of the gospel. And he says, why vote? Watch this.
And if any of you, as probably most of you do here, have children and grandchildren, and if Jesus tarries, great-grandchildren, the question before us for this election is, what kind of country is this going to be? You know, when Ben Franklin was met by Mrs. Powell on September 17th, 1787, coming out of the Constitutional Convention, she said, well, Mr. Franklin, what have you given us, a monarchy or a republic? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. And we are at that moment, I believe, where the founding fathers are looking down from heaven, wondering, are we going to keep it? Because look, this is not just like any other election. All this stuff that's going on right now, pulling down the statues, it's not about pulling down statues. It's about pulling down America. That's why they started with the Confederate flag, Confederate monuments, but now they've gone on to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and abolitionists. Anything that represents America has got to go. And so this Black Lives Matter movement is not about saving Black lives, which is why they don't talk about the black-on-black crime that's happening all over the country, the thousands of young black men who are dying in the streets of our country. They don't talk about the ones who've been killed in the autonomous zone in Seattle. They don't talk about the ones who are dying of fentanyl drug overdoses and in gang warfare. They don't talk about that because they don't care about black lives. What they care about is using that as a Marxist ploy to get people to buy into some sort of socialist, communist worldview for this country and flip it over. And for those of you out there, and I'm sure this is all of you, who feel as I do, I love this country. I love this country. I can't, I've said to people, when you are born a citizen of the United States of America, you hit the proverbial lottery because you got born into the greatest nation in the history of mankind with more opportunity and possibility for fulfilling your God-given potential than anywhere else that's ever existed on the face of the earth. And I really believe that God entrusted this country into the hands of believers. And it's up to us more than anybody else who really sees what's happening, because we were talking about it before we came out. Most people don't understand what's going on, Andrew. They don't get it. They just think, well, we're just having a little debate. No, we are having a pitch battle about whether America is going to remain a free nation, a constitutional republic, or whether it's going to become something very, very different. And look, we either fight these battles at the ballot box or we're going to end up fighting them in our backyards. So I want to echo what Tony said. Every one of you has got to be registered to vote. Every one of you has got to make sure that every friend with their head on straight, every family member, you've got to make sure they're registered to vote. You've got to make sure that they get out to vote. This is an absolutely critical election because if the wrong people get in power, look, it's not just about changing the country. It's about punishing every single one of us for having stood against them, because that's what socialism and communism always does. And I'm here, Andrew, I got the invitation a few days ago. I told my office, drop everything, I'm going, because I'm committed to making sure that we save the United States of America.
E.W. Jackson, Bishop E.W. Jackson, former Marine. He was a foster care child, but graduated from Harvard Law School. The man has a revelation, and we appreciate him sharing with us. Thank you, Andrew, for letting us use these. There's one more clip by E.W. Jackson. It's called Race versus Class, and I want us to watch that. Socialism has substituted class warfare for race warfare. Watch this, and we'll be right back.
America's always been the prize of prizes for socialism and communism. I'm convinced of this. Karl Marx's theory was that socialism was inevitable because capitalism inevitably failed, because what it did was to create wealthier and wealthier people, poorer and poorer people, until finally the poor people, which is most people in the society, couldn't take it anymore, and they rise up into a revolution and throw off the capitalists because they've impoverished them all. And then America kind of messed the theory up, because America came along and suddenly working people can take care of their families, they can send their children to college, they can live in decent homes, they can drive nice cars, and guess what? They can start a business and maybe even get rich. And so the whole thing of class warfare breaks down with the United States of America more than it has any place else. So how do you still affect communism and socialism if class warfare doesn't work? You replace class with race. You see, because race gives you an advantage that class doesn't. But if you can convince people that based on the color of their skin, no matter how wealthy, no matter how successful, no matter how well they do, that the society is hopelessly against them, hopelessly corrupt, hopelessly racist, hopelessly a place of absolute injustice, then you can get the anomaly of people who have succeeded beyond most people's wildest dreams, saying, we got to bring the system down. They don't realize it comes down on their heads. They haven't gotten that far yet in thinking through it. But race is really the new class, and they're using it very effectively to carry out a socialist agenda using race as the sort of the stalking horse and the vehicle. So this is why I encourage Christians and conservatives, don't buy into this stuff. The answer to racial problems is very simple. Jesus gave it to us. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. End of discussion. We don't need socialism to solve that problem.
Amen. Thank you, E.W., again for that. And thank you, Andrew, for letting us use these clips. So, when the foundations are being destroyed, what will the righteous do? You vote. How do you vote? You vote the Bible. You vote righteousness. You vote for what the Bible teaches. Do we have time to run that clip right on the reverse side of this by Michelle Bachmann? I think it's just a minute. If we do, I think this would fit real well into what E.W. just said. Michelle Bachmann shows us what Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger had in mind. So if we have time to run that, there it is. Okay, listen to this, and then I'll be right back.
And so this is a real thing. And out of those 63 million who've been murdered in abortion, George, many of them were black babies. A disproportionately high number of those innocent babies were black. And do you know the largest abortion provider in the United States, Planned Parenthood, they specifically target black neighborhoods, Hispanic neighborhoods to build their abortion clinics.
Michelle, their founder specifically came
Yes.
against the black baby.
Margaret Sanger, she was a eugenicist, which means she didn't like black people very much. The head of Planned Parenthood didn't like blacks, didn't like Hispanics. She wanted them eliminated. Wow. So let's eliminate them by pulling the babies out of their bodies so we don't have to look at more black or brown people. That is your Planned Parenthood. That was Margaret Sanger.
Thank you, Michelle. She was a former congresswoman, and we met her a couple of years ago as she was attending CUFI, Christians United for Israel. And it's very important that we take heed to what these people are saying. They're in the know. They know what they're talking about. They've been in government. And what are the righteous going to do? If the foundations be destroyed, whose head is it on? Ours. Because we're the righteous. What are we doing about it? Psalm 11:3, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? And let me just say this and encourage you. No matter what you have to do to vote, you need to do it. If you don't vote, then let me just say it this way, all of the soldiers that have died in all of our wars for us to maintain our freedom and liberty, they died in vain. I don't care what the weather's like. I don't care the obstacles. Go vote. That is you expressing yourself as to what kind of country you're going to live in. If you don't vote, then whatever kind of government we get, you're stuck with it. But God requires the righteous, that's you and that's me, to go and to vote, to protect the foundations, the moral, political, and economic foundations of this country. Join me again tomorrow for Arkansas Live. Remember, Jesus is Lord of Arkansas and wherever you're watching too.
Send your questions, comments, and testimonies to Happy Caldwell at Post Office Box 26207, Little Rock, Arkansas 72221, or email happycaldwell@vtntv.com. Remember to follow VTN on Facebook at VTN Your Arkansas Christian Connection, and follow Happy Caldwell on Twitter at Happy_Caldwell. VTN is on Roku. Search VTN in the channel store and add us to your lineup. Today's episode is available to watch on demand at VTNTV.com and click Watch. You can also watch VTN via live stream at VTNTV.com.